And you are. But see, it's all candy-coated. It's all this big veneer, and that we've literally had the wool pulled over our eyes in regard to this particular subject. The vast majority of business that these places like in America, like Walgreens or CVS Pharmacy, the vast majority of the reasons that their doors are open is not to sell candy bars or cosmetics, it's to sell the drugs. It's the pharmacist in the back. That's what's driving those particular stores. The profit margins are unreal. Then he says, I couldn't believe my eyes. The English words pharmaceutical and pharmacy are both derived from these ancient Greek words. Here is one of the largest industries in the world, and the very name of the industry is derived from the words that mean sorcery, magic, witchcraft, spell-giving potion, or poisoner. Don't you find that astounding? Once I had this key, all the other pieces of the biblical puzzle began to fall in place. Continuing on, I read in the very next verse in Revelation, and my understanding of these scriptures took a whole new meaning now that I knew the correct interpretation of the word sorcery. Revelation 18:24, in her, which is Mystery Babylon, was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and all that were slain upon the earth. Okay, that's like the next verse here, okay? So, she deceived everybody through her sorceries. And in her was found the blood of the prophets, the saints, and all that were slain upon the earth. So in the full context of this passage, it is saying, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived, and in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and all that were slain upon the earth. Is there any connection to these slain and the sorceries, or the pharmakeia of the whore of Babylon? Could these passages be God's way of warning His people of the potential dangers of pharmaceutical medicine? Now, I'm not saying there's not other medicine, there's other pharmakeia out there that isn't just as dangerous, like crystal meth or cocaine or these types of things that aren't, let's say, medically produced, okay, in the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so again, let's look at this as a broad picture here. But again, it is an interesting parallel here. The Bible warns us to be watchful because Satan comes disguised as an angel of light. Is it possible that the pharmaceutical medicine has been disguised as a great benefit and blessing to mankind, when in reality it may be a poisonous spell-giving potion that has the potential to be harmful and in some cases even fatal? Now again, I'm not going to be so dogmatic as to say every single drug is evil and all that. Do whatever you got to do to save somebody's life, emergency medicine, somebody's in a car accident or something like that. I'm talking about people that are getting habitually hooked on these drugs, particularly the ones that tend to alter if somebody has a headache once in a while, I'm not going to go crazy over somebody taking an aspirin, but I'm talking about people that are habitually hooked on medications, particularly the ones that are mind-altering. Okay, so let me make that statement as well, so I have a little bit of balance with this study here. They go on to say that God will see to it that the truth comes out, and that this whore of Babylon, who is destroying His people and deceiving the world with her pharmakeia, will be punished ultimately. The great prophetic book of Isaiah also deals with the great whore of Babylon and the judgment coming upon her. The key words in the following passages are sorceries and enchantments. And it says here in Isaiah 47, 5, 8, and 9, sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, or Babylon, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come upon thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. And they shall come upon thee in their perfection, in the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Sorceries and enchantments, okay, are integrally related. And the sorceries, again, is deriving from the word pharmakeia. Okay, so this is something that there's a lot of judgment that is predestined upon the whore of Babylon, and it seems to be integrally related with pharmakeia, which is where we get the derivation for the word sorceries in this context. So it's an interesting point to think about here. All throughout history, the history of medicine and mind-altering drugs have been an integral part of black magic, witchcraft, and sorcery. There's no debate on that. Apparently, through drugs and medicine, the mind and the body can be opened up to demonic influence and even possession. Absolutely. There is a whole spirit. This is why people, when they started doing experiments on LSD way back with Timothy O'Leary, back in the 60s or whatever, that people that would actually take LSD many times would really see the green little men. Or they would actually see spiritual entities because they had so opened their subconscious up and their mind up through these mind-altering drugs that they were actually seeing demonic entities. This is called having your third eye opened in the occult. And there's ways you can accelerate that process. Okay? One of the ways is just take a boatload of LSD. And it'll do it for you, you know. And it'll also fry your brain in the process. And you're going to become demon-possessed. And I mean, don't do it, but I'm just saying that's a way that it has been done. There is a whole spiritual world around us that we are not able to see. But again, these drugs, I believe, enable many times for that to happen. They actually enable you to see into these other dimensions. Under the right spells cast by witches, magicians, and sorcerers, with the use of drugs, the wall of division between these two dimensions can be broken. And then again, this is why many times you can see into these dimensions. You're taking down the wall of partition here. Does this explain why such a large majority of elderly people on high doses of pharmaceutical medications claim to be seeing things and hearing voices? That's a great point. These people, these elderly people that are on 15 to 20 meds, laying there in vegetative states in retirement homes or wherever they're being taken care of, they see things, they hear voices? It's no wonder. As the world continues to slide quickly downhill to a more decadent and evil state, one wonders if the massive increase in both illegal drugs as well as prescribed medication have anything to do with it. It seems pretty obvious to me that they both play a part in the increased violence in our society and the loss of morality we are witnessing on a grand scale. Again, this all contributes to the degradation of society. Everything that we talked about last week and this week, it's just one more part of that. Has Satan's horde of demons been released from the pit of hell to inflict death and carnage on the world by possessing people's minds and bodies through the use of drugs? Many of the people responsible for brutal mass murders that have taken place over the last many years were on strong pharmaceutical drugs. Now, we're going to talk about that in a second. And let me repeat that. Many of the people responsible for brutal mass murders that have taken place over the last 10 years were on strong pharmaceutical drugs. Depression and antidepressant medication seems to be one of the common denominators in all these cases. Let's talk about that further. Here's a study from the San Francisco Gate, February 1st, 2004. It was entitled Antidepressants Causing Suicides in Kids. Food and Drug Administration scientists who found that antidepressants may increase the risk of suicidal behavior in children, has been prohibited from making his findings public. That's why we only read about it in the San Francisco Gate, because it was a little regional thing that happened. He wasn't even allowed to make his findings public. That seems fair to me. You know, let's just suppress it all. He was asked by who? The FDA. Who is owned by the FDA? Essentially, the pharmaceutical companies have bought and paid for the FDA. Okay? It's well known. He was asked by the FDA to write up a safety analysis about children taking antidepressants, Paxil, Effexor, and others after reports of high rates of suicidal behavior among children taking such drugs surfaced early in 2003. During his analysis, he reviewed 20 clinical trials involving more than 4,000 children. So it wasn't like there was some little thing he was reviewing. 4,000 children. And 8 different antidepressants. In his written report, and according to the 2 FDA sources who have read the contents, he concluded that there was a definite link between children who took antidepressants and suicidal behavior. During his analysis, he reviewed 20 clinical trials involving... Oh, I'm sorry, I just read that. After learning of this finding, the FDA informed the scientists that he would not be presenting his analysis, saying it was not finalized. That was their excuse, okay? But he would instead present reports received by the agencies from doctors and professionals. And I guarantee all those reports were positive, okay? According to a 2003 study in the Archives of Pediatric and Adolescent Medicine, the use of antidepressants among children has more than tripled in recent years, and soon the use of these drugs will reach adult usage rates. The use of more than tripled. And the suicide rates are going through the roof. I wonder why. I wonder if there's any correlation there. Here's the second thing. This article is entitled, Prozac Implicated in Oregon School